Hey everyone, welcome back to the Let's Talk Teaching podcast. Today we are talking about relationships with students. Now, I know we are midway through the year, but just because we're midway through the year doesn't necessarily mean we have the best relationship with all of our students. We all know that students ask for love in sometimes the most unloving ways. Sometimes they are really just looking for attention. They just want adult interaction and they don't really realize that they can get positive interaction from adults without having to do negative things, without having to create behaviors, without having to act out. So, today I want you to think about the students in your class, whether you teach one class or seven classes, whatever it is. I want you to grab a roster when you can and go through and think about every single student that's in your classroom. How is that student doing? How are they really doing? What's going on at home? What's going on in their personal life? How are their academics? How are they behaving in other classes? What's really going on with them? You don't have to take a ton of time to think about every single student if you feel like you have a good touch with those students, but I want you to go through your entire list to make sure you don't miss any of them because sometimes some of our students really do fall under the radar. We all have those students who they're always on task. They're always doing what they're supposed to be doing. You ask them to line up, they're the first one in line. You ask them to put their stuff away, they're the first one to do it. But at the same time, they go with the flow. They never act out. They don't talk too much. They're maybe a little bit more shy or reserved. Some of our students just fly under the rug because they're not the ones that have big, confident personalities, but they're also not the ones that we have to be really, really worried about falling behind or who have really traumatic lives. However, all students carry around different things in their backpack. And when I say their backpack, I mean what they're carrying around personally. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's some trauma that's going on at home. We really don't know. And for those students that we maybe don't have the best touch with, we might truly not know what they're thinking and what's going on in their head. So today I want to challenge you to spend some time getting to know all of your students on a personal level. You might already feel like you know your students, whether it's the student that talks to you every single day before they go home or right away when they get to school, or the student who you know you're constantly talking to because they're on a check in, check out behavior plan or something like that. Whether you already have some of those systems in place or not, I want you to try something new. I want to challenge you to take a day or a block of time and do a 5-minute check in with each of your students. Now, before you freak out, I know 5 minutes is a lot of time. I know if you have 25 students, I am asking for a lot. I know if you have 75 students, I'm asking for a lot. I want you to try to do this quarterly or on a trimester type basis, or at least once a semester, at least twice a year. You should be doing this with your students, spending 5 minutes with every single student in your class, talking to them, getting to know them on a deeper level. Now, I personally came up with this idea because the principal that I had a few years back would do one on one conferences with all of us teachers. So she was our principal. Once a month, we all got a scheduled time where we could go in and we could talk to her about anything and everything we wanted to talk about, things that were on our mind, lesson plans we needed help with, whatever it was. Once a month, we got to go in and do a one on one with them. I loved that time. I saw my principal daily. I saw her in the hallway. We actually have a personal relationship. We work out on the weekends. We do that kind of stuff together. But as a teacher principal relationship, I wanted that protected 15 minutes to talk about the things that were on my mind. And I really valued that time with her, so much so that I thought my students would probably value that time with me too. I know they're with me every single day in the classroom for 8 hours a day, but there are probably things that they wish they could talk to me about in a one on one setting when no one else is around. So I used my small group time with my students to do this. While my other students were in their rotations doing what they needed to do, I would pull one student at a time and I'd spend just 5 minutes with them. Now, other students that I knew maybe needed a little bit longer time, I would do lunch bunch with them. I would invite them to come have lunch with me. Now, remember, last week we said we're protecting our peace. So if lunch doesn't work for you, don't feel like that's something that you have to make work. But I do want to challenge you to spend some one on one time with each of your students so you really can get to know them on a personal level. The deeper, more personal that we know our students, the more we can interact with them, the more that we can design our lessons to be more student interest centered, the more that our students will trust us, the more that everything is just going to go better. During those check ins, some of your students are going to tell you the same thing they tell you when they do their weekend shares during morning meeting, whatever it is, the same type of things they write in their journals, however you kind of connect with them. But there are going to be some students who open up and who tell you things that really are on their mind. And I'm not saying these have to be big, drastic things like their parent lost a job or something like that, but just things that you might want to know, like maybe their goldfish died, or maybe their brother just moved out and that's been hard on them. Some of those conversations that it's weighing on their little minds, but they maybe haven't brought it up or maybe haven't been able to share it. When we know what's going on in their little lives, when we have that awareness, we're able to protect them a little bit more. We're able to be a little more sensitive to what they're going through. Now, again, not all students are going to be going through something like a goldfish dying or their brother moving out or their dad starting a new job and being away when they're not home from school, things like that. But we're also going to have students who want to share with us about their sporting events, about competitions they're in, about their music performances, about the things that they do that bring them joy. And that's amazing too, because then we can celebrate those things. We can ask them when they get to class, hey, how's that song going that you've been practicing on the piano? Hey, did you finally get that trick down at hockey practice? Like just little things that are going to help us build those conversations. Once you have that 5 minute check in with all of your students, you're automatically going to be able to advocate for them and share a little bit more about them in meetings when we talk about student concerns, things like that. But we're also just going to be able to have those quick little check ins with them in the hallway, at recess, during lunchtime, whatever it is, so that we can continue to build our relationship. Now, I'm totally not saying just because you check in with your students one time for 5 minutes is going to change the entire climate and culture in your room, but it's a step. It is a stepping stone. And once you try it, you might realize that those students truly do look forward to that time with you, and you might do it again. And then you might do it again. I'm not asking you to do it all of the time. I'm just asking you to take some protected time to spend with each of your students so that you can get to know them on a little bit deeper level, so that you can build the trust with each other, so that they know they can count on you, and so that they know that you respect them and you respect what they have to say. We're not always going to have the best relationships with all of our students. We're going to have students who challenge us every single day, and there are going to be students who challenge us who really do not look forward to those 5 minutes of time, but it really is important for them to see that you care about them enough to want to spend some protected time with them and to get to know them a little bit better. So that's my challenge for you today. I want to challenge you to just take some time to get to know all of your students on a little bit deeper, more personal level in a one-on-one setting. The rest of your students can still be in the classroom doing their rotations, doing their centers, whatever it is, but just make some protected time with them. It is going to make the majority of them feel pretty special that they get to hang out with you in a one-on-one setting. If you try this out, let me know how it goes. Send me a message on Instagram. As always, I'd love to chat with you. You can reach out to me at North Dakota Teaching. Let's celebrate your wins. Let's celebrate your successes. If you have something that you're going through that you want to chat with someone private about, I am always here to listen. Thanks so much for being here today, and I'll see you next week.